Oftentimes, people have the question when we go in, we talk to companies, corporations about getting people involved with social media. The question that comes up more often than not from the company's employees that we're trying to encourage to involve social media is that how do we balance our personal life, social networking with our business life and what we're doing? And that's a real difficult challenge for a lot of people because of exactly what you said. And what I always tell people is that, all right, well, if you're going to be involved with your company's marketing, or obviously maybe you own the company, so that's a whole other story. You want to make sure that what you say and what you contribute online that is associated with your company, is all appropriate content. And then, obviously, if there's certain things that you want to keep private, be it a personal thing on Facebook, there's some pretty extensive privacy settings that you can set just within the tools within your profile, and then just those are some good rules to go by.
Yeah, I mean, you can even do a Google search for Facebook privacy options, and there's tons and tons of ways to create groups of who's in my groups on Facebook, and who can see what parts of my profile, who sees what updates, things like that. LinkedIn doesn't really have nearly as many extensive privacy options. Facebook is very good about it.
That leads to a question I have in terms of, do you have an organizational Facebook entity versus a personal or individual Twitter account? I see that with some organizations, like some of the media organizations in Boston. There's a Facebook page for, say, Channel 7,
Yep.
but the individuals have Twitter accounts. But how do you, when you do that, how do you ensure unity of message?
That really goes back to it's a great question. It really goes back to establishing a corporate social media protocol. What happens is that, what's more likely to happen is when employees do put out damaging content about a company, and obviously we're not talking about kids and Domino's, but when they're talking about putting out damaging content about a company, it's not because typically it's not because they're trying to undermine the company they work for. They lose their jobs, and that just doesn't make sense. It's because that they don't realize what the content they're putting out there is inappropriate. So, and that I oftentimes put back to the company and say, well, it's your job to establish a set of rules and guidelines as to appropriate behavior and inappropriate behavior. And it's your job to establish a protocol for your company as to how you're supposed to be acting, what you're supposed to be doing, if you're going to be associated with the company, identifying the people who are, as you mentioned earlier, Mike, the consistent contributors and the people who can maintain the voice of the company. What you should do is identify the people who can maintain the voice, maintain the message, and who can be consistent contributors and consistent people who can engage in conversation on behalf of the company. It's a scary thing to think of. You just letting everybody know, all right, everybody get involved with social media, and not having them understand the goals and your objectives and what you're trying to do with marketing through these channels. So. Yeah, again, I would point you towards that white paper that I put together, because a lot of this is outlined how to establish a corporate social media protocol, which is on our site. So.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing to remember, if you put, in your profile, say on Twitter or something like that, your company names. I'm Mike. I work for this company. Then basically you are associated with that company. Everything you say is associated with that company, and you're always on. Everything. There's nothing on the internet is ever deleted. Even if you post something on Twitter, which you have the option to go back and delete a post, it doesn't actually delete it from Twitter's search. So you can still search it, it still shows up. It'll delete it when people look at your profile, but it's still there. So you do have to be really careful about, understanding, that what you post could be considered inappropriate for whatever reason. That's the thing. 90% of the population could find it, you know, perfectly reasonable, but there's 10% of the population that may find it inappropriate, and that's just of the nature of how people react to content. Yeah.
Yeah, and then obviously, if you become a fan of your company's page on Facebook, don't put naked pictures of yourself on it.
Right.
I use it for both personal and professional. I'm a realtor. Recently, a member of our professional organization, it wasn't the director, it was like the educational person, sent out a comment on a question on LinkedIn. It said, do you use these sites to post your listings? And she listed, you know, Facebook and all of them. So I answered it. It's the first time I ever answered it. I said, yeah, I use Facebook for putting my listings up. I use Craigslist. I use whatever, you know, in this market or any market, you know, you have to get the word out there. And then after me, several people answered saying that you shouldn't put listings on Facebook. It's for personal only, and even a past president of the organization said, you know, it's not proper or whatever. And I was really quite taken aback by that. I had never really thought about it, heard about it, or whatever. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it all depends on the mix of what you're putting up there. So for instance, if you sign up for Facebook with a personal profile, and the only thing that you post are listings, well then people are gonna identify you as such. They're gonna say, the only reason you're here is to market. But if you are doing personal networking on Facebook, you know, commenting on people's statuses, maintaining a personal dialogue with people, and you post the occasional listing, you know, say that's, you know, 10% of the content that you post on Facebook is business related. I don't personally see any problem with that. There are ways to do it that can be more subtle. So for instance, Facebook has a marketplace, okay? So, you know, people identify, okay, well if I'm gonna market something on Facebook, I'll post it in the marketplace. Because what happens is, on your Facebook news feed, there'll be a little status update, you know, you posted, you know, so-and-so posted this in the marketplace, okay? And it kind of sections it off. That's where that content goes. There are a lot of other ways to do it. I would say, you know, just maintain kind of the mix appropriate for that communications channel. Same thing on Twitter. So some people only post links to other resources on Twitter. They don't respond to anybody. They don't retweet anybody. They don't do anything else. Okay, well that's too far in one direction. Other people only post updates about what they're eating for lunch. Well, that's too far in the other direction. You want to kind of be somewhere in the middle, appropriate for the channel.